Well, hello, everybody. Happy Thursday. We are so glad you could join us today for Good News in Parks. I'm Anne Marie Spencer, and I want to welcome Miss Becky Benet, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Five Rivers, Ohio Metro Parks. Becky's also a past NRPA board member and past president of the American Academy of Parks and Recreation Administration. I know many of you know her. She's another rock star in her industry, and she's filling in for our regular show co-host Jody Adams, who had a conflict today and couldn't be with us. This is going to be a great show today as we talk about safety training and cybersecurity. Keeping agency data safe is one of the utmost things that we can do, and sadly, one of the greatest threats we're facing today. A lot of people think this only affects large financial industries, but that is absolutely not true. Even though banks may offer a high financial gain, small agencies often have fewer resources or incentives to invest in cybersecurity, thus opening more opportunities to criminals who get as much a thrill out of disruption and power as they do getting money. So if there's others in your organization that should know about cybersecurity, go grab them now, have them listen in, and we'll get going. Becky, thank you for being here with us for this important topic. We're excited about the panel we have. They have some great advice to us. So who do we have with us today?
Well, first, thanks for having me, Anne Marie. I am so honored to be asked to be the guest host today. And what a great topic. I was just talking earlier with the group about we all are learning. So this is like talking about what we've learned, what we don't know. And there's a lot I know I don't know. But today I'm so excited. We have two panelists with us today. And the first is Angela Hill. Hi, Angela. Angela is Administrator and Executive Director of Shelby County, Tennessee Parks and Neighborhoods. In addition to her administrator's job with Shelby County government, she also has a contract as a senior program manager for the National Recreation and Park Association, helping with focusing on healthy communities, equitable access, and climate resilience. Prior to joining Shelby County government, she held management positions with City of Memphis and the City of Atlanta. She is a certified park and recreation professional, and she is nationally recognized as a writer and a speaker in the field of parks and recreation. So great to have you, Angela. And our second speaker is Tara Eggleston Stewart, and she is a division chief for Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission. That's always a mouthful, I know. And she's held numerous positions within that agency for over 17 years. And she is a certified Parks and Recreation executive. And she too is a nationally recognized writer and speaker in the field of Parks and Recreation. So we are so pleased to have you on today, and it's so pertinent in terms of, we talk about what's the news today and what are the happenings of today, and cybersecurity and continue to be safe are two top of mind that you'll hear later in our conversation today. But there's a lot to celebrate too. As we all know, COVID, we're tired of it. It continues to want to hang on. But this year in 2022, it's a different year as compared to the last 2 years, where I know, at least in my area, and I know across the country, we are celebrating being able to do a lot more things than we were able to do 2 years ago. We have lots of different kinds of celebrations during the month of June, let alone it's summer. We have so many different kinds of celebrations, such as National Safety Month, the National Great Outdoors Month, Pride Month, celebration of Juneteenth, which is now a federal holiday, the National Pollinator Month, and National Camping Month. So many things to celebrate. And don't forget, in July is National Park and Recreation Month. So we've got lots to celebrate, and we're very excited. And please check out the National Recreation and Park Association's new study that came out related to the economic impact of local parks report. And that really does highlight, which we all know, of course, the resiliency of our industry, our profession, the importance of what we do, and how we are such a large contributor to our community's health, whether it's the financial health, the physical health, and definitely the mental health of our community. So we are awesome as an industry, and it's all good news in parks. So with that, I think what I would like to do is transition to start talking about this very important subject of cybersecurity and safety. And so I'm going to start off with our first question. And that is, we'll have Angela go first. And here's my question. And Angela, if you need me to restate it, just let me know. Cyber attacks on businesses and government agency infrastructure were on the rise and still are, but on the rise at as much as 10.5% in 2021. That include ransomware and many other ways of getting into agency systems. You both oversee large park and recreation agency systems. Share with us some of the IT safeguards your agencies have established to address cybersecurity.
Well, first for the question, and thank you for the opportunity to present. I will say I am not an IT expert, but I think over the last couple of years, as ransomware and all of these things have kind of ramped up, we all have become kind of more aware of the issue and how we can protect our systems. So the first thing I would say is the most important person is yourself. You are kind of the first stop other than your IT department in how to stop these cyber attacks from propagating your system. So first, kind of slow it down. Two things that you need to remember, and you probably won't remember, but these are the terms in the field. Social engineering. Social engineering is kind of what, the ransomware, they reach out to you. It's through an email, through a text or a phone call that seems familiar. It seems like a familiar source. It may say director, blah, blah, blah is, wanting to invite you to a meeting, but there are some ways that you can kind of go through those emails to make sure to verify that this is the person. And then of course, the phishing. Everybody knows about the phishing. That's what I call it, is clickbait. It's something that's, kind of, hey, I want to click on it. It's some great news. I think I want to see about that, but it really isn't what you think it is. And also it sometimes comes with the kind of a sense of urgency. Your warranty is about to expire. Okay. Those things, those, what sources, but sometimes they come kind of familiar. So the way to kind of, stifle those things, just know automatically you're not going to be able to do it all. You may make an accident and happen. It's an innocent click. That's what I call it. This information that I'm going to share is not only useful for yourself at work, but also at home, and especially when you're traveling, because if you can see my background, I'm in a hotel room right now traveling. So these are the things I'm using right now. So what I do is, one, I use the preview screen in my emails. That way you kind of get a glimpse of what the email looks like before you actually open it. I know people hate also updating their passcodes, but please make a rule to kind of update your passcodes every 3 months. I know it's a headache, but you just got to do it right now. And I like to make my passcodes a phrase that I can remember. Don't use this one, but this is not your Wi-Fi. Could be one, but don't use that now that I put it out there. But make it a phrase and something that you can kind of remember, and don't use it across all of your platforms. Because once one is compromised, then it's compromised across all of your emails. One good tip that I like to use, and I use this almost every day, is sometimes when you get emails, you can hold it and click over it and kind of hover, and it'll pop up what emails I guess the email was sent from. So if you see something that says, my name is Angela Hill, but my email, the extension is Shelby County. But if you see Shelby County XYZ 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then you know automatically that is a spam email, and that's the kind of telltale. Misspellings in the URL, again with the emails, or extra long URLs could be a problem too. So and then also, I guess the final kind of 2 tips that I have, and if you're not writing these down, you can definitely put it in the chat, and I'll repeat those. But I use a VPN. And so that's the virtual private network. So right now I'm using my hotspot, which is VPN, which is kind of like a firewall that stops people from accessing it without a passcode. And then again, the final thing is, all Wi-Fi is not friendly. I know you said, oh, it's an open Wi-Fi, I can just latch onto this. But when you latch onto it, if it's not for anything important, it might be okay. But if it's for confidential information, just know that you're not the only one on that Wi-Fi. So those are my kind of quick cheat, help for you guys. And I will pass it over to Tara.
Great, thanks, Angela. So so some of the safeguards that our agency has used to help to protect our cybersecurity system, the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission has really placed a priority on cybersecurity due to the sheer size of our organization, supporting 2 counties worth of employees and patrons. It's really critical that we are doing everything that we can to protect our information, whether that's financial information, whether that's proprietary info. And we use a combination of hardware and software, and we also have some external resources that we tap into to build our strategy around protection. So, we evaluate and prioritize budgeting, ensuring that our equipment is current and at the forefront of technology. That's another thing. If you're using antiquated old systems, those are typically more vulnerable to threats in the cybersecurity world. So making sure that you are really staying on top of the latest hardware and software. We also use products such as Palo Alto firewalls at the borders and Cisco routers at our edges. We also use systems such as CrowdStrike, Falcon Complete for our endpoint protection, as well as a host of other products within our security stack. Additionally, we have under contract and on retainer several professionals that guide and shape our security posture. So we don't do this alone. Sometimes you need to reach out for experts in terms of additional support. So we have a cybersecurity consultant that's under contract, and on an annual basis, they help us review and undertake security initiatives, as well as help us respond to emerging issues that are happening in the field. So this 2-pronged approach of using a robust tool set of software and hardware, as well as having security professionals really help to guide and check our posture, and it to date has served us very well.
And so, I don't know if anyone has any stories to tell. One I can actually share myself in terms of what to watch out for and to be aware of, and maybe you two may have something else to share too. Just last week, as a matter of fact, and we have a lot of those safety protocols in place that you both have mentioned, but just last week, this is how easy it is. And that's why training is so important. But I got one of my staff got an email from me, supposedly asking her to, I needed some gift cards to be purchased, and I really needed that. We need to be quiet about it. It was a surprise, and they're very, very good at those who write, sometimes, not always, these emails. But she was smart enough to go back up and look at my email address, which was not my work email address or my name email address, and was able to then say, something's not right here, even though it sounded, initially she answered it and then she's like, wait, something's not right. And so, how fast we all get emails. It's really important to if something doesn't feel or sound right to you when you read it, go up and look at that email address, because a lot of times you'll be able to catch it there. Not always, but that is definitely a way to make sure that, is this really coming from the person that I thought it was? And I don't know if either one of you, Angela or Tara, if you have any additional experiences in your agencies. Angela?
I was going to say, with me, we haven't had like the major ransomware attacks, but we have had a lot of emails and text calls. I mean, it seems like they've ramped up in the past month or so. We might get 2 or 3 a day, just random. And so the tips that I just use, looking at the email address, previewing the email, those have really stopped a lot from just my department alone. So, it's almost something you just got to be vigilant about. And if it doesn't feel right, double check it. And I also like to, if it doesn't feel right, I screenshot it and send it to my IT department, and they will verify if it was an actual email or not.
It's a great idea.
You know, we also experience very similar several emails from strange addresses. We've had instances very similar to what Becky has mentioned, where you'll get an email from what looks like our executive director or our director of Parks and Recreation asking you to do things. And the department has been very proactive in the training of our commission employees. So we do a quarterly IT security training where our IT department basically curates, you know, a set of specific trainings around cybersecurity. And we've been doing that for the past couple of years. And I really think that has been very helpful in building awareness for employees on what to look for. And today, even, I got an email from an employee in one of our other buildings saying, hey, you have a package. And I was immediately like, well, who is this from? Like, I don't recognize the name. So I like went to his email address, hovered, it looked like a real email address. And then his contact information came up, and I even called him because I was like, I've not gotten an email like this before. Or is this legitimate? And it was. So I do have a package that I have to pick up later today. But that was our training really working, because I didn't just assume that that email from this person, I had never received an email before saying I have a package at one of our main buildings, was legitimate. I actually had to take a couple more steps that I learned in those IT security trainings to verify that that was legitimate.
Yep. So adding, you mentioned training and, you know, trying to be aware as an employee. Can you each share a little bit about, do you have specific, not all organizations do, but do you have a specific IT position or positions that deal with your software and cybersecurity? And if so, what are the functions of those positions? And if you don't, how do you manage it? So Angela, I'll go first with you.
Yes, we have with the Shelby County government, we do have an IT department, and we do contract out similar to Tara in her department, and with, you know, monitoring our telecom section, which is our telephones, texts, all that, and then also with our actual equipment. So we know who to go to when we have these issues. So kind of back to the example I used, that if I see an email that's strange, I email it to them, because it could be the gateway to, you know, the whole county being exposed to a virus. So I guess we do have, you know, the county has their own system, and then individually, like I said before, every individual is responsible for our IT safety and security. So we protect our cell phones, you know, even our credit cards and all those things. We protect those with with our own common sense and with the trainings that we've received over the past couple of years.
Mm-hmm. Tara?
So yes, on a broader level, the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission, we have a Chief Information Officer, our CIO, and he oversees the office of the CIO, which is really responsible for planning and coordinating and delivering all of our commission-wide IT services. You know, they work collectively to make sure that we have the right technology in the right place at the right time, and they also work very closely with our department IT leads at, you know, throughout the various departments throughout the commission. So for the Department of Parks and Recreation specifically, we have an Information Technology Services division, and there is a division chief that oversees that division, and they have teams responsible for applications, for infrastructure, telecom, and network security. They are also responsible for like our database management and operation. So that team really leads the charge with us in terms of, you know, protecting our network and our environment, and, you know, doing what we can to ensure that our information is safe.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I would agree that, you know, the training piece, it's repetition, repetition, repetition. You know, because one, repetition to keep it top of mind, but two, because things are changing all the time. And trying to stay in tune to the ever-changing ways, unfortunately, that people can attack our systems. One magazine that I started reading, really when COVID came along, because I had to spend a lot more time thinking about our technology, is called Government Technology. It's a free magazine. And it's really good, I think, for any level of understanding with IT. I mean, I'm an end user. I'm not the one doing coding or setting up our firewalls or anything like that. But this government technology magazine is super helpful in one way because it helps me stay into. I may not understand it all, but the language, even the words that are used, and knowing the questions to ask of our IT folks. We have a fairly small IT department, but they're mighty. And they know a lot. And so for you as administrators out there or supervisors, being able to, know the questions to ask, not that you don't trust them, but just being able to understand what's happening, the costs that go with all these upgrades and things you have to do as an agency to continue to stay protected are really critical. And so I think it's all of us have a responsibility to continue to be aware of how we use our technology, because as you know, things can go really, really wrong and disrupt the services that we provide.
Yeah.
Any other suggestions on, how to work with your teams? Does anyone do any tests within their agency where you may send out an email and it's set up to be protected, but it's actually a phishing email? Has anybody done that or have had that in their agency just to see who clicks on it?
Yeah, so our IT division has mentioned that there may be some tests that go out via our email system, and they're hopefully reinforcing what we saw in recent trainings. So that has occurred with our agency where they send a test email. Fortunately, I've not clicked on any of them, so I've just sort of shoot them right to spam or to the junk file. But yes, they are testing us, I believe. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's not to be punitive. That's just to help us, help us go, oh, yeah, okay, I got to remember, I shouldn't have clicked on that, or I should have looked at the email address. So with that, I think we might be ready, Anne Marie, for our first poll question.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do a poll question and just kind of test where our audience is at with their cybersecurity. So our first question for you is, which cybersecurity measures do you use or plan to adopt in 2022? And this is multiple choice. You can select as many as are appropriate. So do you have an agency-wide cybersecurity policy? Do you use multi-factor authentication, where when you're logging on to certain platforms, you get texted a number or something like that you have to enter? So you're using 2 different ways to authenticate. The spam email test, do you send those out? There are actually some companies who offer that initial service free of charge. Obviously, they want to get your business. But that's kind of something that they will do for free just to test the health of your organization. So that's not necessarily something that you have to pay for. And you can Google, phishing test or company phishing test or free phishing test and find a lot of resources to do that. Do you do managed data backups? This is the simplest way that we can all protect our data, right? It doesn't cost anything to back up to a server, or at the very least an external hard drive. So if something does happen, you have your data backed up. Do you do employee training or employee newsletters or communications? Or we don't employ any cybersecurity measures yet. So just trying to get a pulse on where everybody's at with that. It certainly is, it's great to have an IT department, but we're only as strong as our most vulnerable team member, right? So the more that the people that we work with know of all these things, the better the overall health of the company can certainly be. So looks like everybody's voted. Let's end the poll. Okay, so tie between an agency-wide cybersecurity policy and employee training. 75% of the audience employs both of those. A lot of you with multi-factor authentication, 55%, 45% have done spam email tests, 50% manage data backups, 30% employee newsletters, and only 5% have not employed any measures yet. So that's pretty strong. It's definitely something that you want to think of. And as I said, we'll be sharing some resources also at the end of the show for some free things that you can do and look into, as well as kind of show an example of some of those phishing scams that the team has talked about so far. So there's the poll. And with that, I will turn it back over to you, Becky. Let's ask another question.
Okay, thank you. So we're gonna, it's still in the line of safety. We're gonna kind of switch a little bit here. Security is definitely about safety, but as high-level administrators in your organization who are responsible for a wide range of public park and recreation facilities, programs, services, please share your agency's what I would call your mandatory safety training that is required. And I know it could be when you first begin on a job, the orientation part of this, and then the ongoing training that is required to ensure that we provide the safest way of making sure our services are where they need to be when we are serving our public. And with that, we'll start again with Angela.
All right. So the trainings that we pretty much do, I'm sure I'm going to be repeating a lot that Tara is going to be mentioning, and of course that are obvious trainings. But we basically we conduct staff trainings annually and throughout the year. These trainings include on our programming side, food safety, bloodborne pathogens, sadly active shooters, which has to be kind of like muscle memory now to a lot of our, especially our community centers, CPR and first aid. And then, of course, our summer programming training. A lot of trainings that we reiterate, like I said, we're trying to do the muscle memory. So it's kind of like secondhand for you to know, to just you see an incident and you handle it. The one that we have to, specifically drill down into is our incident reporting. A lot of times people don't know what to put on there. I basically say who, what, when, where, and if you know the how, put that on there. Again, these things may be obvious, but I like to reiterate that part of safety is the MSDS sheets, the material safety and data sheets. Those are really important when you're dealing with chemicals. With my crews, we deal with chemicals on the outside when we're spraying. So knowing how to store them properly, if they're spilled or they get on a person, how to clean those up. The MDS sheet or the MDS sheet will definitely give you the know-how to handle those. A couple of the resources that we have, it's for our training. We do trainings and we have informationals, but if things that we don't know, we seek out information. So we go to NRPA. NRPA Connect, that's the National Recreation Parks Association. You just throw a question in there, and if you don't know it, you'll probably have 10 responses by the end of the day. So that's a great network. Also, our state association, my state association, which I'm going to give a shout out if there's anybody from Tennessee in the crowd, the Tennessee Parks and Recreation Association. During COVID, we did a really good job. I would say they did a really good job of doing online trainings for helping people throughout COVID who couldn't go to a physical in-person training. So that was a good opportunity. So your state associations probably have those similar opportunities as well. YPAR, which is Women in Parks and Recreation. That organization I just joined, probably think maybe 2-3 years ago. And that's a really good resource for trainings. I was a part of NRPA Director School and Maintenance Schools. So those are really great resources for networking and getting trainings and stuff of that nature. And LEO's your local law enforcement. So they are very helpful with our active shooter training. So if we didn't want to, do it ourselves, we wanted to get the professionals, then we call in our local law enforcement and the fire department for specifically for the first aid and CPR trainings. So, but overall with our trainings, we try to make them fun. Across all the organizations that I've been a part of, one key thing that we've done is to make it fun. Make it where it's muscle memory. And so especially with equipment, we've tried to do equipment rodeos. And so you learn the information and then you compete with other departments with who can do it better, who can, drive a zero turn better. It can get a little wild, but it's all in fun. And also just maybe doing a Parks and Rec Park of the Month competition. And so you have your standards written out. Everybody gets trained on the standards in their monthly trainings or monthly meetings. And then every month when we come back and meet together, which park, based on the community input, had a better facility or had better landscaping. And so it becomes a competition, but also who can meet the standards to the 100%, as opposed to where they were. So like I said, those are kind of general trainings that we go through annually and throughout the year, in addition to the harassment trainings, dealing with difficult people. A lot of those trainings are geared towards our HR side, and we have a whole calendar of those as well.
Thank you, Angela. Okay, Tara.
So so our department, we operate a variety of parks and recreation facilities and programs, and some of which have just natural risk associated with them. So for instance, we operate 7 indoor pools and 7 outdoor pools, and we work really hard to ensure that our lifeguards are trained and certified using the American Red Cross lifeguarding program. We also require lifeguards to complete at least 4 hours of in-service training a month, which covers their in-water rescue, CPR AED, first aid, and implementing facility emergency action plans. We also, as an organization, cover many of the trainings that Angela mentioned for her organization as well, in terms of bloodborne pathogens, active shooter training, and other specialized trainings as well. For our pool managers, we do require national certification. So whether you're seasonal, intermittent, or a career manager, we utilize the Pool and Hot Tub Alliance's Certified Pool Operator curriculum. We also require our career managers to take NRPA's Aquatic Facility Operator, so the AFO, as well. And annually, we work with our Risk Management and Safety Office to provide training on managing swimming pool chemicals. So we're covering topics such as safe storage, proper handling and disposal, safety data sheets, the National Fire Protection Association labeling for chemicals so that they know and understand what they're working with, right, and what the potential hazards are, as well as emergency response if they were to have a chemical spill or mixing of chemicals that should not have been combined. So I do have that presentation that we use annually for our operator staff, and I'm happy to share that with people who are participating today if they're interested in receiving it. For our gymnastics programs, we do some internal training around spotting and management of athletes, but we also turn to USA Gymnastics. So we, our career managers and our coaches turn to USA Gymnastics to learn things around safety and risk management, the basics of teaching gymnastics, safe sport, which trains our staff around managing abuse cases, safety and communication, and also concussion education, right? So the care and prevention of those types of issues. We also operate the Prince George's County Trap and Skeet Center, which is a shotgun clay target shooting facility. So we provide first shot training for people who have never handled a shotgun before. So it emphasizes safe shotgun handling and emergency response procedures. We also, for our staff, will recommend external training through the National Skeet Shooting Association if they are interested in becoming an instructor and being certified to handle that sport. Some other specialty sites that we operate that we require safety training are golf courses. So in addition to our maintenance position safety training, there's annual training that is provided that relates to the application of pesticides, fertilizers, reviewing laws and safety procedures and compliance around managing those types of chemicals as well. So when we're thinking about our park maintenance staff, so our employees usually attend new employee and site-specific safety orientations prior to even starting their positions with the department. So we have various trainings for personal protective equipment, ladder safety, hazard communication, and other job-related training. We also send our supervisors to participate in safety training related to their respective areas of responsibility. And we encourage them to conduct weekly toolbox talks on various safety topics with their maintenance teams. So the commission also utilizes a risk management and training matrix, which details required safety training for specific maintenance related positions. So that's another resource that I'm happy to share with participants today, which details the type of communication based on the type.
Tara, I think you froze up.
I think she did. We'll let her get back on here. One of the areas, and I think she's trying to right now.
Is recorded.
Uh-oh.
There she is.
I'm back. I'm sorry. Can you
No
hear
worries.
me?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I don't know what you last heard, but we were talking about the types of safety training that are available based on position types. So we have basic safety training, which is provided to all of our commissioned employees who hold administrative and office job classifications. We have general safety training, which is provided to employees who hold field and trade type job classifications. And then we have specialty trainings, and that's for employees who are exposed to very specific hazards because of their job duties. So again, I have a risk management and safety training matrix that I'm happy to share if that's something that individuals are interested in.
Great, Tara. And for those of you who may know me, I am a huge proponent of agency accreditation, and there's a large section within the accreditation process that focuses on safety. So if you are interested, that their standards are online, and you can go to the accreditation site and look at what those standards are. That can give you ideas about what you might want to think about in terms of setting up safety programs for your own organization. Tara, one question, you've been speaking about pools, across the country, lifeguard shortages are everywhere. Are you experiencing that in your own organization? And if so, are there some quick suggestions you might provide to how you're dealing with that? And Angela, I'm not sure if you have that too, but.
Yes. Yes. So, Maryland and Prince George's County, we are not exempt from the national lifeguard shortage. And it has been a tough recruiting season. And, we've experienced this really since the onset of the pandemic. But the Commission has been very supportive of our advocacy for increased pay rates. So in May, we did receive a pay increase for lifeguards that has netted some additional recruiting success for us. So we've seen some new candidates come in and go through the process. And, we've also made some modifications to our operating, right? So our outdoor pools, are open 6 days a week instead of 7 days a week. And that's just because we cannot, assure that operating all 14 pools 7 days a week are going to be adequately staffed. And there are some instances where we're also having to make modifications on when amenities are open, right? So if you have a really large aquatic facility, you might not be able to open up your deep end and your lily pad area at the same time. You may have to stagger that, each hour so that, patrons have the ability to utilize all of the amenities during the swim session, but it may not just be at the same time. I mean, safety has to be the priority. And, we've encouraged our managers to pay attention to the capacities, make sure that we're staying within the limits of our local and state code with regard to ratios for lifeguards and patrons, but really taking a look at your pool specifically and making sure that you are covering those areas, and safety has to be the priority. And if that means that you are not operating a certain amenity to ensure that your patrons remain safe during that swim session, then that's what you do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Angela, did you have anything to add?
For me, we don't have any pools per se, but we're having a shortage across our grounds crews. I give a quick shout out to my mayor, Lee Harris, for Shelby County. Him and the commission approved a 5% increase. Yay! So with that, our part staff, then their pay rate has increased, which has opened up the floodgates and made us a little bit more competitive across the board from other municipalities for our part-time rate. And so that's really helped us out a lot. I can say as of Friday, I have filled all of my part-time positions in my full-time. So, so I'm very happy about that.
Congratulations. Well, I do think we are now ready for our next poll question, correct?
Yeah, we absolutely are. And Tara, if you look in the Q&A, Thurman is interested in getting some of those resources that you mentioned. So if you type your answer in there to him and then hit enter, everybody will be able to see that answer as well. And then Karen in the audience also made a great comment that CAPRA Chapter 9 is all about risk management. So another really great resource that we all have. So let's take a look at the next one. And this one's kind of a little bit different for our poll questions. We're going to test your knowledge a little bit. So Mimecast, which is a company that does polling on security of all kinds of things, did a state of email security poll last year. Which of the following things do you think are true? More than 90% of organizations were targeted by phishing scams. Ransomware has attacked 3 out of 4 companies. 4 out of 10 attacked by ransomware failed to recover their data. 90% of survey respondents have improved cybersecurity in 2021. 79% of companies surveyed reported an increase in email usage in 2021. And most companies identified poor password hygiene as the worst security mistake in their organization. What do you think? Lots of answers there.
I'm going to say, I know I'm cheating, but I know it's got to be the email hygiene, because we hate changing our passwords as a county or municipality. We just hate it, but we have to do it.
Right. And it's with all the passwords, you have to remember, right? Everyone who wants to pick like PASS 123, that is not a good password, people. I'm just going to give you that tip right now. Or your pet's name or your kid's birthdays, bad passwords. All right, looks like everybody's voted. We are going to end the poll and share the results. And this is an interesting one. Whoever said more than 90% of organizations were targeted by phishing scams is correct. Actually, everybody that voted for every single one is correct, because every single one of these is true. And it's interesting when you think, the one that really freaked me out, honestly, is that ransomware has attacked 3 out of 4. Now, that doesn't mean 3 out of 4 companies fell for it. But if you think about 75% of companies out there have been targeted in some way or another by ransomware, that's a pretty scary statistic, and certainly one that we want to, think about and be careful with, for sure. So we have another poll question for you real quick, and this is sort of a similar one. Let me launch that one for you. So which of the following methods are good ways to determine a threatening email? Hovering over the from field to make sure it matches the sender's name and company. Messages from a company that you deal with, but the salutation doesn't use your name. Poorly worded content or bad English. Misspelled domain names or content. Asking for payment for something you didn't buy. Sender is somebody that you know, but they're asking you to do something that they normally would not. Making an offer that sounds too good to be true. Is it answers 1, 4, 5, and 7, or all of the above? I'll give you a few minutes to think about that one. Lots of things in there. And, some of you should absolutely get some of these right, because Tara and Angela and Becky have also shared some of these. So we know that a few of them are definitely right. And we're going to show you at the end of the show also just kind of a phishing scam for, it's interesting that I met someone a few days ago that has never seen one and wasn't really sure what they looked like. So, I mean, not everybody's online as much as other folks. And so we're going to show an example and kind of show you some of those fields as well. All right, so it looks like everybody's voted. Let's end that one and share the results. And it is all of the above. Can't fool you guys. 75% of the audience got that one correct. So yes, absolutely. Lots of ways there that you can determine the threatening emails. And one of the best ones is hovering over that from email. And if you don't know what that is, next time you open an email, take your mouse and put it over the person's name that it's from, and their email address will actually pop up there. And if that doesn't match the name of the person, then that's probably not a very good one. But also, not just emails, social media. If you look at social media online right now, there's one going around Instagram where, and especially if you have people in your department that are in athletics, this is really easily targeted because they probably know other athletic people. And there's this email going around saying, hey, I'm trying to get this sponsorship for this athletic, representative, and will you vote for me? And they'll send you this thing. And when you click on it, it's ransomware. So pretty scary. Lots of ways that they can get you. So Becky, I'm going to turn it back over to you and let's go to our next question.
Okay, well, we talked a lot, shared some ideas about cybersecurity as well as safety trainings. And, there's large and small agencies throughout the country, and all of us have different kinds of resources and the ability in terms of our financial opportunities to address these items. Angela and Tara, could you share what you would say are maybe your top 3 suggestions or steps that agencies should take that could help improve both cybersecurity and their safety training? And Angela, we'll start with you.
Okay. I don't know if I have top 3, so I'll go really fast. No, I would say that there are some free trusted resources out there. Anne Marie mentioned a couple, and I'm sure they're going to have a list of a few at the end. But first of all, the most important cyber, security plan is your staff and yourself. I mean, I cannot stress that enough. And then understanding and limiting the access points to your network through, to combat the social engineering or the phishing scams. So checking and making sure and verifying information. I say trust no one. I literally, that's how you have to be sometimes. And it's similar to what Tara said about getting the email about the package pickup. You know the person, but you just got a funny feeling about it. And then next, go to your IT department. They may already have one. They may already have kind of a plan of attack for you, just a kind of ABC SOP for you to kind of follow. And if you don't, like I said, connect with those organizations like NRPA Connect, your state association, the both of us on this call here. We have, tried and tested, forms and, outlines that we can send out and, help you if you don't have a plan already in place. Then finally, develop a social media plan. I know this is probably something that's also in the CAPRA accreditation standards. It's not just your email. It's not just your phones. It's also social media. I mean, I literally sitting right here, I just got a friend request from my aunt who, I know I'm already friends with her in real life, and on Facebook, but why am I getting another, friends request from her? So, it's just, you have to always be vigilant and those trainings make a muscle memory. Train often, and you can eliminate, minimize, but not necessarily eliminate these problems moving forward.
Okay, Tara.
Sure. Yeah. So when it comes to planning it for and providing cybersecurity and safety training opportunities for your organization, you really have to consider worst case scenarios, right? So if your organization doesn't provide these critical trainings, like you could be violating local, state, or federal regulations, your employees and the data of your organization could be at risk for injury or breach. And you could be considered negligent if critical incidents occur that results in major data breaches, injury and or death of employees or patrons. So, in terms of cybersecurity, here, 3 things that we would recommend: find a way to budget for cybersecurity and safety training, right? In today's age, it's really like the cost of doing business in parks and recreation, right? Technology is ever present and growing. The price of a data breach or an attack is it's greater. I'm sorry, I'm getting mixed up with my words. It's greater than consistent investment in cybersecurity. So they also recommend buying embedded security. So moving your infrastructure to a cloud-based system, which shifts the security, shifts the compliance, and also the risk to you as the service provider. So it can potentially lower your organization's risk, optimize service delivery, and increase the overall security of your network. And then, lastly, we've talked about training your employees and really building awareness, right? Like engage and empower your end users. So, develop a robust training program with maybe some even incentives that create basically a workforce that is that front line of defense for your infrastructure, for your software, for your network. So, train. And yes, at times, investing in cybersecurity could be very expensive, but again, you have to weigh like your worst case scenarios and what would happen if we lost all our data, if there was a major breach, if we shared data or data that was personal to our patrons was exposed. So, we have to take all those kinds of things into consideration and weigh whether or not it's really worth the investment.
And just to add to that too, several years ago in our area, we had about 15 tornadoes come through and do a lot of damage. And one of the things that we're affected by is being our internet connection. And our phones are connected to the internet. And so our way of communicating ended up being cell phones, and making sure that we have a backup server for all the data, whether it's in the cloud or if you have another physical server somewhere else. And so it truly, with all the different kinds of, unfortunately, climate-related disasters, there's the security piece of protecting, not just from people who want to do bad things, but things that can happen to your system, because whether it's a flood, tornadoes, those kinds of things. So the backup protections that you need in order to protect all the data that you have, and the emergency action plans that you ought to do. Many people do tabletop exercises like Angela mentioned. Muscle memory just becomes, if it happens, you've gone through it enough that you know exactly what you need to do. So, those are other things I think that we have to pay attention to. It's protecting us from those bad folks out there, but also, unfortunately, disasters that may occur within our organization. So thank you both for those tips. We really appreciate it. Anne Marie, do I have one more time, or do I have time for one more question? Yes?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, okay. We're going to kind of switch gears just a little bit because we'd like to get a little insight on our leaders that are on the panel today. So Angela and Terry, you both have been very successful in your role in this profession. What do you think are the keys to your success? And we'll start with our Angela.
Keys to my success. Wow. I was thinking about this, and I probably have a whole book of keys to success because I'm a type A person who likes to keep notes and track my progress and journal, but that's not it. So what I would say the most important was getting involved in my local, state, and national associations. I have my motto is why not and don't say no, basically. And so whenever my local or association, state association asked me to do something, I was like, had fear on one side, but I said, well, why not? Let's do it. And so learning those, taking those opportunities kind of open doors to even this opportunity here. Also, I know people in the audience may be interviewing for jobs or, looking for a promotion. And you always get that question that says, what is your greatest weakness in an interview, right? And so what I did was I turned it into a kind of a mission. And so whatever area I was weak in, I used to, 5 years ago, I would say that I was not the best at finance. And so I threw myself into my local association. And so, working with the treasurer there, becoming the president, where I had to work with with financials, in a volunteer instance that wasn't like do or die. And so, I would say get involved in organizations where they can hone your skills, hone your weak areas. And so that's basically what I've done. And also build relationships. So now Tara, Becky, and Anne Marie will be my friends for life. They just don't know it. They will get a LinkedIn request from me. And so all of that networking, it opens doors as well. And that's what, basically how I've done to kind of elevate my career along this 13 years I've been in Parks and Recreation. And finally, I would say NRPA has been kind of the organization that has been my mentor. And so I've found, great relationships through that, again, with the building relationships, but also going to director school. And again, a shout out to the Tennessee Recreation Parks Association, which are the best two organizations that I've been a part of in my career in Parks and Recreation. So if I would leave it with a summary, get involved and don't say no to an opportunity that can help you grow.
Thank you so much, Angela. Great insight. Okay, Tara.
So I think some of the takeaways or the successes that have contributed to my career really have came out of my volunteer opportunities, and also continuing to train and support professional development for myself, and pursuing professional certifications such as the CPRP and then the CPRE, attending the NRPA schools, so Supervisors Management School and Directors School, and, taking opportunities to expand my network, whether that is through, participating in various networks at NRPA. I participated in the externship with the American Academy for Park and Recreation Administrators, and I continue to support that organization's externship program, and serving as a buddy and a mentor. And just as it's amazing how many people you meet and come across just from your volunteer experiences. I say that they're just as valuable as your paid experience, and just being open to challenging yourself to do more, right? You want growth, and sometimes it's not in the path that you envisioned for yourself. A major I think turning point in my career was, I was an aquatics professional for years and years, and people knew me for aquatics. And I got to a place in my career where I had been an assistant division chief for about 7 years, and I was ready for growth, and that growth wasn't in line with the aquatics and sports world. So I had to step out of my comfort zone, and I went to oversee arts and cultural heritage programming for the department for nearly 4 years. And that stretched me and challenged me, but I loved it. And I'm so grateful for that experience, because eventually I was able to come back and be the chief as aquatics and athletic facilities. But it took me stepping out of that comfort zone and trying something scary, and learning it, and getting to a point where I felt like I was doing it well. So I think being open to opportunities as they present themselves, not being afraid to challenge yourself, and continue to train as much as possible.
So I think you hear some common themes from both of them, and that's why they're so successful. Thank you both for that insight. We really appreciate it. With that, I will turn it back to Anne Marie.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Becky. So we are going to do one of our favorite segments now, which is called Good News in Parks About Great People, where we give our panelists a couple of minutes to talk about their team. We're going to start out with you. Angela, tell us about the Parks and Neighborhood team.
So with my Parks and Recreation team, this is not all of them, but these are the group of people that decided to take the picture on the day I was ready to take the picture. So we oversee with Shelby County Parks, we oversee over 6,000 acres of land, including 10 parks, a veteran memorial, and a 400 plot community garden, and also an 18 hole golf course, 2 dams, 2 cemeteries, and a host of other facilities and grounds. I just had to put that out there. And so my team, they're a super team. We were gifted the community garden, where we started out with 80 participants, and we grew the program to over 438 with a waiting list. Over the instance of COVID, we took the opportunity to expand the program to not include just doing gardening in 11 by 25 plots, but also doing some yoga in the garden for relaxation, socially distanced, of course, during COVID, when people could not get out and do group events. We had them group, spaced out in the community garden. And also, beginning gardener classes. So you could take a class at home and do a container gardening class. And so that kind of connected people. And with all that being said, we entered into to our state association innovative program competition, and we won the 2021 Innovative Program Award. And so this is just, I want to give gratitude to my awesome staff who, were not necessarily in the gardening business. But as in Parks and Recreation, you always have to pivot, and I found a way to make it recreation, and more recreation than it was already. So I appreciate my staff, David, Rachel, myself in the middle, Miss Karen, and Pat, who were very amenable and helped us grow the program to where it is today, and award-winning program at that.
That is incredible. And how many people did you say participate in that community garden program?
So it started out 3 years ago with 80 people. Now we're at 438 with a waiting list.
That is amazing. Congratulations on that. And congratulations to your team as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, Tara, tell us about Tony.
Yes, thank you. So Anthony Tony Reed is one of my assistant division chiefs and serves as the acting general manager for our department's largest multi-generational complex, the Prince George's Sports and Learning Complex. So over the last 2.5 years, our division has experienced various changes on our leadership team that has required Tony to take on the oversight of additional work programs, to lead efforts to develop several specialized reopening and operational plans during the COVID-19 pandemic, and working with government officials to lead the nearly 2-year implementation of the county's largest testing and vaccination operation at the Prince George's Sports and Learning Complex. Tony brings with him an extensive background in event, facilities, and project management, as well as a wealth of programming and supervisory experience. Within his 20-year career and advancement within our department, Tony has been able to maintain his mission to build healthy communities through people and programs. He has brought an innovative approach to the many roles that he has served in over the years, and he is a strong believer in quality customer service, responsive government, and the development, management, and preservation of quality parks and recreation facilities. I've come to rely on Tony's outstanding leadership and ability to coach his teams to provide excellent customer service, programs, and services for the residents of Prince George's County and beyond. I appreciate Tony's hard work and commitment to making the Aquatics and Athletic Facilities Division the absolute best it can be. Thank you, Tony, and I appreciate you.
Wow, that's awesome. What a tremendous asset to have on your team. It sounds like he has a lot of experience in a lot of different areas, and that's certainly very, very cool. All right, so now we are going to share with you. Let me get to the next area here. All right, we said that we would do some things about recognizing threats. So here is, let me just go to the first one here. So, everybody gets stuff from the United States Post Office, right? So an email coming in using their logo, you wouldn't think anything about it, but you get this thing that says, hey, customer, your parcel was sent back due to the unavailability of a physical person at the address. Please give us a new address or correct the old one and complete the dispatch fees using the following gateway. And then there's a button there for you to click. Seems absolutely reasonable, right? There's lots of different threats in here that you can recognize. So if we go to the next one, you can see here, this is what we were talking about with that hover state. So when you hover over, it says US Postal Service, but look, here's the real email. It's coming from Vitra Decentra at lenderexpresstexas.com. Probably not the post office, right? Although they use the logo here, they refer to you as dear customer. This is a really common thing that you see in scams. Dear recipient, dear customer. Most of the times, especially if it's somebody that you have an account with, like a postal account or a credit card account, they're going to know your name. So they're going to call you by your name and they're going to spell your name right. So that's another thing to look for. Spacing errors, you can see where there's an arrow. There's lots of spacing errors here that probably wouldn't be present in an official email. Mismatched fonts, you can see the word was is in a different font there after your parcel. That's another big one. Address mention, that's a really weird way for them to say it. So it would be probably more likely unavailability of a physical person at your home or at the recipient address, but address mention is a little off. USPS doesn't charge dispatch fees. So you buy postage, you send the package, that's it. So the fact that they're asking for additional fees is definitely a cue. Gateway, another odd wording. They would probably say using this link rather than the following gateway. And send back. That's really strange. So it says your parcel was sent back as the subject line, and it says that, and then they're saying send back as the click through. So another just really kind of odd thing. All of those taken together, and again, one of these alone may not be too much to worry about, but all of these taken together certainly add up to this being a scam. And it's interesting because the easiest way to recognize a scam is when it's talking about something that you're not doing, right? So if it's from FedEx and they're talking about a package, but you're not expecting anything from FedEx, you might get that one right away. But US Postal Service, that's pretty obvious. Like all of us are getting things from the Postal Service at all times. So that's a tougher one to recognize. So it's just a good example of a spam. And this is when I actually received this. This came from my inbox. So I got this one last week. So I thought it was perfect timing. And then just some other best practices that you can think of, reviewing your emails. So doing multi-factor authentication to secure online accounts and data. So basically, if you don't know what that is, when you enable it in your online services like email, you provide a combination of 2 or more authenticators so you can verify your identity before getting access. So as an example, when you enter your password, multi-factor authentication might send a text to the cell number that you registered. That text would have a code that you have to enter in order to gain access. It protects your account more than just a username and password. It's just one more layer of security. Because even if one factor that way, like your password, gets compromised, unauthorized users still wouldn't be able to get access because they're not going to have that second requirement. So it stops them from getting in. Microsoft is so encouraging of all their users to use it. They have made it free of charge for all the apps in the Office 365 suite. So if you guys use Office 365, including Outlook, Teams, Excel, Word, and many more different ones, look into that. It should not cost you anything additional. Back up your data. We talked about that. That way, even if you get hacked, your data still exists in another place. Replace all end-of-life software. I know one of our panelists talked about this earlier. So if software has reached end of life, and what that means is you'll get an email that says this is no longer being supported after whatever the year is. That means that they're not updating that software. So what happens is that opens it up to hacking because it's no longer getting security updates to halt new and current threats. So anytime a new threat comes out, a lot of times you'll get an email to update your software because they'll have put in a patch or something to help protect you from that. If your software is at end of life, you're not getting that protection anymore. So absolutely replace that when that happens. Change your passwords often. We all hate doing it, I as much as anyone else, but even if you use a really good password, the system that you're logging into can get hacked. So it's a really good idea to change them every once in a while. I've even signed up for a service that sends me an email when something, so for instance, if I use PayPal and somebody's gone in and they've hacked something that has provided a list of passwords from PayPal, I'll get an email that they've been compromised and I should go in and check my password. So change my password. So you can look for those services as well and sign up for them. Again, they're free. Use memorable but uncommon passwords. Again, password is a bad password. Your pets' names, your kids' names are bad passwords, things like that. There's a video out, I think it's on YouTube. And if you look it up, I think you can find it by like, how easy can you guess my password? And there's a guy on the street and he just stops people and he asks them 2 or 3 questions. And in those 2 or 3 questions, he's guessed what their password is. And it's just bizarre because all these people think that they have chosen good ones, but they haven't. And then finally, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency has a lot of free resources and tools that you can use to help you become more secure in your day-to-day basis. Again, these are all free tools. There's a lot of free information there. They have a newsletter that you can sign up for. So just another way that, especially if you don't have an IT department at your agency, this is a good way to have somebody just kind of be on the lookout and keep up to date on the latest information and helpful tools. So we hope that that was helpful to you. And then we also would invite you to join us next month on July 14. We have an episode about diversity, equity, and inclusion, advancing equitable usage. If you remember a couple months ago, Jody and I had a poll as far as what topics you guys would like to see on upcoming shows. And this one was definitely at the top. So we've got this one coming up for you. We're working on getting guests now. It's interesting. This is from a report that NRPA published. You can see the citation down at the bottom there. Only 1 in 3 park and recreation agencies as of last year had established formal DEI activities. So a long way to go on this to get it to where it needs to be. So we're going to have a great show. We'll have some guests that have done some amazing things already with DEI. And we certainly hope that you can join us by signing up there at education.playcore.com. And we will see you next month. And with that, I am going to turn it over to you, Becky, for any final words you might have.
Just want to say a great big thank you to Angela and Tara for being our panelists today. We appreciate it. And for everyone who signed up for the show to watch, cybersecurity is, like I said, ever changing. We got to continue to stay on top of it and continue to train our folks. And Anne-Marie, the resources you just provided are outstanding. And even though we may not be the IT expert, we certainly have to be aware of what's happening out there. So I just want to say thank you to everyone. Again, it was an honor to be able to, I'm not a Jody Adams. No one can replace Jody, but a big shout out to her and hope she's doing well. And she'll be back next month. And I just want to say thanks again. It's been wonderful.
Yeah, I echo that. Thank you so much, Becky, for jumping in. And Angela and Terry, your insight was absolutely amazing. So thank you for sharing it. We appreciate all 3 of you taking time out. Schedules are so busy right now, and it's summertime and everybody's in park. So the fact that you took the time out to join us today means a lot to both myself and everybody in the audience as well. So thank you so much for that. And we will see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.